Hello there, matey. If you like to help the man who makes this podcast, then you can. By donating some money to him using Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the show notes. The man who makes this podcast thanks you.
The sixth B tell me more about him. Is it he managed to get his beard caught in his fly in the souped up Ford Mayo naysayer got a nice set of copper pipes on you, sound like a real police singer and way, and practice your scales are lovely and silver, they do sparkle in the moonlight so. Hi BMI to I Ballbag the Scroton Mortox story starring pulled pork and pushed lamb mince through your letterbox ears to old Tom Motorx and raise a glass of eyebrows, the lost property of CG. I think you'll appreciate all my CG sweets in one gulp of Mexicone-shaped car sweet and savoury eel Lee Aaron Coombs, hairball and socket and mousy hair red sea ball and bat boy. Oh, boat 077714, your dog-shaped bowl of dog biscuits that are shaped like dogs.
The vacuum.
Hello and welcome to The Vacuum, which is the new name of this podcast. Actually, no, that name sucks. How about The Wind? No, that name blows. Maybe you can think of a new name and telephone me to tell it to me because Folkcast isn't working. Oh, and already we have a caller called Calorie. Hi Calorie, what is your suggestion?
Hi, I think you should call your show Simon's Podcast. Nice and simple, Simon.
That's a great idea, but I am not called the name Simon. But thanks, Calorie. Now we have Jill. What is your suggestion, Jill?
Hello, Simon. I think you should call it Simon Says, because in it you say things.
Well, if my name was Simon, that would be a good name. So thanks, Jill. And lastly, Roger. Hi, Roger. What do you think I should call this podcast?
Hello. I would suggest Joe Rogan's, because that is most popular podcast, and then people will listen to you and think it is Joe Rogan's. P.S. I've never heard your show. Bye.
Okay, thanks, mate, but I'm going...
Podcast.
Phew. The very beginning of this episode was recorded in the multi-storey car park next to Morrison's. It wasn't, but I recorded it quite badly and it sounded too roomy, so what I did was to actually add some Morrison's car park reverb, and hey pesto, that is the effect. But you can't have that over the whole episode, can you? So now I'm in my neighbour's car recording this bit. Once again, I'm not really, I just used neighbour's car reverb, and that makes it sound like it is. The rest of this episode sounds normal.
Well, some people used to get me confused with the Irish presenter and radio DJ Terry Wogan, and now that I am dead, they are even more confused, brother.
What do you get the woman who has everything and likes sausage? A hamper of summer sausage products? Or how about a sausage-shaped candle that smells like fresh sausage when lit? Or perhaps a sausage-shaped pen that feels like a raw sausage and smells like a raw sausage, and may well be a raw sausage with some ink in it. I usually buy my wife something sausage-based for her birthday, but this year I thought I'd break from tradition and get her a bacon and egg watch. That's right, the bacon is the strap and the egg is the watch face, and it is made from genuine German bacon and genuine Scottish egg. And although it doesn't tell the time...
Nice tattoo, dude. What is it?
Well, this one on my arm.
Yeah, what is it?
It's a guy licking at his phone.
Cool. What's he looking at?
Look closer, dude.
Oh, wow, he's looking at a picture of a guy looking at his phone.
Yeah, but take an even closer look, mate.
Wow. And that guy is looking at a picture of a guy looking at his phone. Wait, does it go on forever?
Pretty much, yeah. Hey, I like your tattoo on your neck.
What, this one?
Yeah, where is it?
It's an anthropomorphic phone looking at a man.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. It's not recursive, though, is it?
No, mate.
Okay, that's cool.
Now, I'm not what you'd call a conspiracy theorist, but I do find it strange that Hulk Hogan, whose name was Terry Hogan, and Terry Wogan were never seen in the same room together. Were they in fact the same person? Now, the internet abounds with all manner of theories on the subject, and I have read all of them and found the truth. That is, that the original Hulk Hogan died in 1995 and was replaced by Scottish man Terry Wogan, and you might wonder how Terry Wogan could be American wrestler and radio DJ presenter in the UK simultaneously, but he did, and I have proof. Listen to this video of the Hulkster trash-talking Macho Man Randy Savage from 1985.
I tell you, Mean Gene, the Hulkster's gonna beat the Macho Man. I'm gonna do a clothesline on him and do some of my punches where I slap. And do some of my punches where I stamp at the same time. And he's gonna look like he's winning for a bit, but then I'm gonna win, brother.
And now listen to this clip from 1996.
Oh, hello there. Wherever there is. I'm not sure, but wherever it is, or isn't. And let's face it probably isn't. Or is, depending on your point of view. Where was I? Or wasn't I? Can I be both? Of course I can. Or can't, as a wise man or woman once said, or didn't say. What am I talking about?
Listening to an episode of this podcast is a bit like drinking a pint of piss. It's not something you want to do, but once you've started it, it's quite unpleasant. Unusual, yes, and surprisingly Moorish, and so you tell your friend about it, and that's like pissing in his ear, isn't it? Pissing out the piss you've drunk, so it's concentrated piss, and he says, "Stop pissing in my ear, bro." But you can't stop mid-flow, so you keep pissing in his ear until his head is nice and full of piss. And what do you think, that he will go and listen to this podcast after that? I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, really. And that applies to all of the podcast. On a scale from 1 to 10, how unsure are you of where you are on a scale from 1 to 10?
10.
Good. And now, what would be different if you were 9 out of 10?
I don't really know what you're talking about.
Okay, good. And now, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you like the number 10?
7.
Good. And what would be different if it was 10?
Well, then I would really like it a lot, I guess.
Good. And now I'm going to breathe into your face, and I'd like you to give my breath a score from 1 to 10. 10 being very nice and floral, and 1 being most foul.
2.
Good. And what would be different if it was a 5, say?
It wouldn't smell like my food waste bin, the big one that I don't clean. I clean the smaller one. The big one has some foul-smelling liquid in it. The juice from several years of rotting food matter. It's really horrible and makes me physically wretch.
So if my breath was 5, what would it smell like?
A very faint smell of halitosis, I guess. Not that nice, but tolerable.
And what if it were 10 out of 10?
Oh, wow. It would smell so nice, like freshly cut grass or some flowers.
Once upon a time, dear listener, there lived a man who was a postman. He was a very stinky postman. Oh yes, so stinky that people could smell him coming a mile off, quite literally. And what did he smell of, I hear you cry? A bit like milk that's gone off, and a bit like a food waste bin, the bigger one that you keep outside and don't clean. Well, we don't clean ours, and let me tell you, it stinks. Anyway, one day, a little dog boy called Towser and a little cat girl called Jill were playing frisbee in the woods, which was a terrible idea because the frisbee kept hitting trees and also getting stuck in trees. And so Towser was up a pine tree retrieving the frisbee when he smelt the most disgusting smell that he had ever smelt, which caused him to faint and then fall out of the tree, and he fell quite away and landed on a rock and died. And Jill ran over and said, "Oh no, Towser, are you dead?" And then she tried to call the emergency services on her smartphone, but she couldn't get a signal. And then she smelt the horrible smell, and she too fainted and hit her head on a rock and died. And the stinky postman, who was delivering a letter to old wise Badger Owl, was completely oblivious to the two deaths that his stinkiness had caused. And if there is a moral to this story, it is this. Don't tip a load of gone-off milk into the outside food waste bin so it mixes with all the bin juice and then pour it all over yourself, because you might unwittingly cause the death of an anthropomorphic dog boy and cat girl.
I met Terry Wogan in heaven recently, and he seemed very nice, but I couldn't understand his Scotch accent.
The Morrison's car park is my favourite multi-storey car park of all. Built in 2007, it is named after Jim Morrison, a local man who worked in Morrison's and looked a lot like a multi-storey car park. I love to hang around in it. I don't drive. Well, I do drive my wife crazy with my car park stories and my car impressions when she picks me up from the car park. There's always a tale to tell, like the time I saw a white car parking in the second story, a grey car parked in the third story, a red car parked in the first story. It really is a multi-story car park.
Paul is sitting in a peach-colored armchair. He is wearing a peach shirt, peach trousers, and his hair is perfectly peach-colored. The walls of his office are also peach, and when he speaks, it sounds like someone biting into a perfectly ripe peach. Claire knocks lightly on the peach-colored office door. "Come in," says Paul, leaning back and placing his peach brogues on the peach desk. "Hi, Paul. Sorry to disturb you." Her hair is the color of pear, and her blouse, gym shorts, long socks, and shoes are also pear-colored. "I thought you might care for a pear." Paul smiles. "Susan, your body is quite pear-shaped, and your head is also pear-shaped. You look like a pear on top of another pear, resting on top of two pears. Yes, your legs are also pear-shaped, and your arms are normal for your size. You won't get very far in this company, looking the way you do, with the pear-shaped head and the body, etc. And your dress is a very off-putting shade of pear. No, if you want a luxurious office like mine and a luxurious desk on which to rest your feet, then you need a more peach-shaped approach to your appearance. A nice round fuzzy head like mine, resting on top of a nice round fuzzy body like mine, with round fuzzy legs and normal arms for your size. On my first day here, I sauntered in 5 hours late, and job manager Brian says to himself, "Who is this nice-looking fellow? I shall immediately promote him to head of the whole company." And he did. And here I am in my peach office that smells like freshly tapped peach, speaking to you in my nice voice that sounds like someone cutting into a fresh peach. And did you know that I get paid in acorns? Oh yes, 75 acorns every hour on the hour. A little man comes in and dumps them in my peach-colored backpack. That is right. I only worked for 2 hours, giving me a grand total of 100 acorns after tax. And then I go to my favorite pub, which is called the Plowman's, and I have peach-flavored beer and a Plowman's. I say, "The usual, please, Henry," And yes, the barman is indeed an actual pig and is happy to receive payment in acorns, which he eats, then a mare, before pouring my pint. Which he can't really do, as he is a pig, and as such has neither the ability nor the inclination. Which he can't really do, as he is a pig, and as such has neither the ability nor the inclination to pour me a beer. The point is, Susan, you can either carry on the way you are, and your life will become more and more pear-shaped, or you can follow my example, and then life will be pitchy.
A lot of wrestlers used to get me confused when they span me round and then pushed me over, and I said, hey, I'm not a wrestler, don't wrestle me so.
Oh my goodness! The Macho Man is spinning Terry Wogan around and around! He must be so dizzy! And a little push and he's fallen over! I can't believe it! His Scottish ass is gonna be so sore in the morning!
Would you like cool red car, hot wife who laughs at all your jokes, massive house, successful career, expensive suit, lustrous hair, 2 kids that look just like you, and you are happy all of the time and everyone thinks you are so cool and tough and clever? Or would you like old rusty white car, frumpy wife with medieval haircut who scowls all the time, grotty flat, soul-destroying job, faded grey t-shirt, wispy hair, 2 kids, one that looks like a car and the other looks like a set of keys, and you're a bit happy, but only on Friday evenings, and everyone thinks you're quite dull? Or you could choose a combination of both lifestyles. Maybe you'd like a cool red car, massive house, but also miserable, unattractive wife, and maybe you like faded grey t-shirt and kids that look like car and or keys, but you'd also like lustrous hair. It's up to you.
Verafst.
I'm watching a good series at the moment. It's about a seemingly normal woman who is a mum and works in office and has a nice husband, but did you know that she used to be a deadly assassin? Yes, you wouldn't think so, seeing as though she's only 4'7" and has a very slight build and doesn't move very gracefully. But you first find out that she is deadly fighter when this enormous bloke, he's probably like 7 foot and is built like a tank, and he tries to steal her pen, but she throws her other pen at him and then punches him in the hip, and he goes, my hip, and falls over, and she says, you didn't know that I used to be a deadly assassin, did you? Oh, it's so good, and it reminds me of this other series I watched about an ordinary woman who is a mum and works in office and has a nice husband, but actually used to be a deadly assassin. And although she's only 3 foot tall and so thin you can barely see her and very uncoordinated and always falls over, but what do you think happens when a 10-foot muscle man with the head of a rhino decides to steal her pencil case? OMG, she throws her shoe at him and it hits him on the shoulder and he says, my shoulder. And then she punches him in the hip and he falls over and she says, you didn't know that I used to be a sort of assassin lady? It's really good and reminds me of this old dining table, or dining woman, I called it, because it looks like a she with a massive pair of wooden bosoms where you can place your bowl of muesli or soup if you like. It's really good and reminds me of this old dining table, or dining woman, I call it, because it looks like a she with a massive pair of wooden bosoms where you can place your bowl of muesli, or soup if you like a bit of a nice challenge. And anyway, this table used to be a deadly assassin, and that is what a robber man found out recently when he broke in and tried to steal it, and the table punched him in the ankle. Wait, what am I talking about? How can a dining table punch a man in the ankle? I'm sorry, but I've got to stop being so silly. No, it punched him in the hip, and everyone knows that is the most deadly strike, And when I came downstairs in the morning, I found the burglar stone dead on our kitchen floor, and he had his little mouth open like this. So I picked him up with my tongs and threw him in the neighbour's garden. Maybe it was a mouse, come to think of it. Pat Leach sells peaches on the beach. They're very cheap peaches and not that nice, but he sells them out of his white van, and sometimes people buy them.
Yeah, I buy his peaches and I feed them to my horse.
This is a story about a man with a white van and a dream to sell peaches on the beach.
Well, it all started when I was in the greengrocers one day, and Teffy, who works there, you know, the one-eyed bloke, he says, "Hey Pat, do you want this box of peaches? They're a bit past it, mind, but you might find a couple of good ones in there." So I says, "How much?"
The answer that Pat heard was not what he expected to hear. This answer would change every single aspect of Pat's life.
He says, "I can have a whole ready box for free." Well, I couldn't believe it. But then when I got the peaches home, I thought, what am I going to do with an entire box of manky peaches? I'm allergic to them, for Mike's sake.
But then Pat had an idea, perhaps the best idea he had ever had in his whole entire life. He decided to sell the peaches on the local beach.
Yeah, well, I didn't have my white van then, so I just walked to the beach with my peaches and asked passers-by if they wanted some peaches. I must have sold around half a dozen.
With some coins in his pocket and a skip in his step, Pat decided to expand his business.
Well, the next day I went back to the grocer's and I said, "Hey, Teth, you got any more of those peaches?" And he says, "Yeah, of course. But they're dead rotten like." And I says, "Yeah, but are they free?" And he said, "Yeah, take them all, mate." So then I've suddenly got 20 boxes of peaches. And now how am I going to get them to the beach? And then you'll never guess what happened. What happened was that Tethie goes like this. Broom, broom, you know, like miming that he's driving a white van. And I say, "What are you trying to tell me, mate?" And he says, "You need a white van, you do." And I say, "Well, yeah, that'd be nice, but who's going to give me a white van for free?" And he said that his mate Craig has an old rusty white van with a really manky interior that he's trying to get rid of. And I say, "Brilliant, have you got his number?"
But the greengrocer man didn't have Craig's number, and so how could Pat get hold of him and get his white van?
Well, actually it was quite easy really, because he walked in at that precise moment and Teff says, "Oh, where he is now." And so he said he'd sell me the white van for £3. And I said, "No, mate, that's too dear. I'll have it for 3 though." And he said, "All right, 25p. And I said, "No, 3. It's not that I didn't have any money, and I had about £17 in my pocket. That's the principle of the thing, isn't it?
So Pat convinced the man called the name Craig to give him the rusty old white van for free, and it looked like Pat Leach's beach peach business was about to take off. But then...
Didn't have an engine in it.
The white van that Pat had managed to get for free from Craig didn't actually have an engine inside of it. Once again, the future of Pat's potentially lucrative peach business appeared to be in jeopardy. But Pat is nothing if not resourceful.
So what I did was I cut a hole in the bottom so I could stick my legs through and walk the van along, like in the Flintstones, you know. And that's all right. There's only a couple of miles from the grocer's to the beach.
Why did you choose to sell your peaches on the beach?
Well, I like the way it rhymed, you know, and also, who doesn't love a nice peach on the beach? True, my peaches aren't that nice, but people don't know that until they bite into them. And you never know, you might get a good one. It's unlikely, but you never know, stranger things have happened.
But what about your pet leech, David? Some people claim to have been chased around the beach by him.
Oh yeah, well that's probably never happened. I keep him on a leash. and I don't normally doze off for more than 20 to 30 minutes. So what you're telling me that somehow he manages to escape and go chasing folks? He's only small anyway, and nobody's ever been seriously hurt by a 3-foot leech. Sure, he might take some of your blood out of you, but no more than a pint probably.
But the trouble was that the more blood David consumed, the larger he became, until one day he was an absolutely enormous megaleech that was actually 100 foot long. And in the end, this was a good thing for Pat because he could ride on him to collect his peaches, and so he didn't need the white van anymore. He'd just pile all the boxes onto David's horrible leech back. And maybe you're thinking, hang on, don't leeches live in water? And normally they do, but not this one. And that is the story of Pat Leach, who rode his leech to the beach to sell peaches.
Hi, I'm Jack Packett, and I play the character of Avery Wayne. Avery Wayne's a sort of film reviewer guy that always has to sleep outside because his wife doesn't like him in the house. He's an interesting character to play, and I based him on a guy I met in the shop once. Will he ever get back into his house? Ha ha ha. Good question. We'll see. Hello folks, it's Avery Wayne here, and I'm recording in my studio, or kennel, here in sunny Scotland. And of course, I'll be talking about the latest made-up films in just a wee moment. But first I need to go to the bathroom, and of course, that means the garden. I'm back and can tell you all about Granny Caffey 10X, which is the latest installment in the Granny Caffey series of movies about a little old woman called Kathy who runs a small cafe, and most of the customers are little old women. And in Granny Caffey 10X, Kathy grows to 10 times her normal size when she eats some radioactive carrot cake, and then all her customers are so scared, and gradually her business crumbles. And then she dies, and there's a funeral, and they have to get an enormous coffin, and the last 45 minutes of the film is her funeral with people crying, and I absolutely loved that because other people's misery makes me so joyful. Jelly Golf Cop 17X is the latest film of Jelly Golf Cop, directed by Matt, and once again starring Leanne as the cop made of jelly who solves golf-related crimes, and yes, he grows to 17 times his normal size when he eats a radioactive golf ball, and of course, all the golfers are terrified because obviously he bursts out his clothes, but even though he's 17 times bigger, his penis is normal size. Did I like this film? No, it was absolute jobbies. Why would a golf cop eat a golf ball? It makes no sense, man. Slobbering Bob Willis 100X is the latest movie about Slobbering Bob, the bearded guy who presented a Muzak show on television, and he's literally always drooling over the musicians. Not in a pervy way, he can't help it. He just has too much saliva, and anyway, in this film, he grows to 100 times his original size and goes on a rampage, and his drool falls down like thick rain, and the army are called out and of course shoot at him, but their bullets bounce off him. That's it. Tatty bye.
I wince when I hear the word wince. I can't help it. It makes me wince so. And I cringe when I hear the word cringe. It's just so cringeworthy. But what I really hate is the word hate. It's just so goddamn negative. Oh, but I love the word love. It's absolutely brilliant. Yay! The story of the pessimistic sandwich. Once upon a time, dear listener, there was a sandwich. It had a lovely filling of egg mayo, lettuce, cucumber, tomato, cheese, ham, mustard, and gherkins. But it was a pessimistic sandwich, and as such, didn't feel gratitude for its delicious ingredients. And did I mention it was a male sandwich, and he was called Chris? And one day, Chris was going for a walk in the forest with his girlfriend, Jen, who was a normal human, of course. And do I have to mention that Chris was an anthropomorphic sandwich with legs, arms, and a penis? I expect you'll probably eat me soon. It's only a matter of time, said Chris morosely. I would never do that, babe, said Jen, who was an Australian. I don't even like sandwich. Well, not to eat, only to have long-term relationship with. What'll happen when I go stale and my insides rot and start to smell and there's all flies around me and that? Oh, that won't happen for ages, babe. Don't worry. So anyway, they carried on walking in the forest, and Chris kept on moaning about this and that. But wait, are you imagining that when he talks the two pieces of bread open and close? Or is his mouth two bits of ham and his teeth a chopped egg, maybe? And his tongue is ham? Or maybe he has a separate cartoon mouth that floats above him? Also, if he has a penis, is it made of bread? And is he wearing trousers or shorts, or is he essentially nude? All of these details are up to you, dear listener. And so is the end of the story. Does Jen end up eating Chris? Or does she abandon him in the forest and a rat eats him? Or do they find a treasure chest and open it up and it's full of rats and they eat him? It's up to you guys to choose your own ending. But it has to be a miserable ending because Chris is a pessimistic sandwich.
My farts smell like freshly cut grass. My farts smell like rain. My farts smell like the ocean breeze. A turd, 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 turd. My farts smell like cinnamon. My farts smell like heliotrope. My farts smell like the ocean breeze. When bad egg plops, slops, slops, slops.
That is end of part 1. Way to have an enjoyable time is to wait for part 2. And then listen to it. Really is that good. Okay, speak soon. Bye.